welcome Dave Cobb. You probably know Dave from his outstanding work on so many amazing albums, all of my favorite albums by artists such as... okay. I do like a few David Bowie albums as well.
I like them too. I'll pick David Bowie.
But everyone from Jason Isbell to Sturgill Simpson to Brandy Carlisle, Ashley Monroe, Laurie McKenna, the list goes on and on, Anderson East. Dave is also the man behind the label Low Country Sound. And we're here with a Low Country Sound artist, Savannah Conley, who is just beginning her career. How did you develop the skill set to become a producer? Did it just come naturally?
I think you just lie.
Oh my God.
You know, I'm serious. Like, you ever asked for somebody's production degree?
No.
I mean, not that that's a thing. That's not a thing. But I mean, you never go, hey man, before we can work, let me see your.
I'm gonna need your credentials.
Yeah. There's no credentials, so really. I'm not even joking. I just lied. My favorite part about being in a band was making the record, and I could sleep in my own bed. So that's kind of how the production thing started. And I watched, my band, we work with producers, and I watched them work, and I thought, man, wait a minute, this guy gets paid. This guy gets fed well, he gets to drink, and he gets to do this. So to me, checked all the boxes of what I wanted to do. I moved to Los Angeles from Atlanta because, I wanted to produce rock records. So, in my mind, LA is where all the rock people live. You think of Led Zeppelin, and not that they live there, but in my head they did. But so I moved out there to do that, and the first guy I produced out there was this guy Shooter Jennings. Through Shooter I met Sturgill Simpson, I met Jamie Johnson, I met all these people and worked with them, and the lie got so good I eventually convinced myself I was a country music producer, so now I'm here.
Take us to that moment when you first heard Savannah.
Steve-O from Atlantic, who's here tonight, he brought her by the studio, and she sang about half of one song. I'm like, done.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
it's like I didn't need to hear anymore.
That's not what I thought you thought.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Something he said, she said here.
No. I know that now. I didn't know it at the time because it felt like he brought me by, and I'd never met Dave before. And I did. I played half of one song, and he stopped me during it, and I was like, oh, God. Now I know how you work, and it's amazing because what really he doesn't want to hear the whole song because he wants to hear it when it's time to cut and do, that way we can get a vision together. And I know that now, but at the time I was like, oh no, I screwed this up bad.
How do you find the artists you would like to work with?
I heard about so many artists the first time through other artists I work with. I mentioned Shooter Jennings earlier. He's always been like a brother, and he told me about Sturgill, and that's how I met Sturgill. He told me about Jamie Johnson. He told me about half of the great artists I know about.
I've heard it said that there are several different kinds of producers. There are vibe producers who just create a great environment, a great hang for musicians. There are curator producers who know every great player, engineer, arranger, and put those people in the studio with you. There are like track producers who actually make sounds, make beats, or make other sounds that they then share with an artist. How would you classify what you do in those categories?
I'm a bit of all of it, except for the track producer. I don't know how to work computers, so I don't know how to do that stuff. I was always a guy who'd make accidental hangs all the time. I'd be at dinner, come hang out, and I would have two people that you would think would be competitive with each other, and then next thing you know, they're buddies. And like Sturgill and Chris Stapleton, or Jason and Chris, whatever it is. I've always been in these situations where I try to make a gang out of it, because I think when you look at London in the '60s, you had the Stones hanging out with the Who, and the Who hanging out with the Beatles, and there was a scene, and Hendrix is part of that. And in the '70s, you had all the Jackson Browne hanging out with the Eagles or whatever it was. Like, I love those scenes. I think they happen because of community. So when I got to Nashville, the first thing I wanted to do, and with this label, with Elektra and Atlantic, is I wanted to create a community, because I feel like there's strength in numbers. And I only really sign people who I want to work with personally, who I like hanging out with.
It's interesting to think about YouTube as a place where a lot of amateur artists, or people are just recording in their bedroom and having huge hundreds, millions of streams. So
I found the drummer for Sturgill off of YouTube.
Huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was looking for, if you ever need a drummer for your band, do a search, drummer of your favorite band cover, and you'll find him. He was killer. 16, the first time I ever saw him, and yeah, now he's yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, listen, I come from Savannah, Georgia, and there's not a lot of opportunity musically. So anything that's gonna give somebody bigger than their hometown an opportunity to be seen, I'm for it. I have a trick I play on people a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's heard the trick because I think music has been so calculated for so long. People expect everyone to be perfect all the time. And there's a couple songs. I play Honky Tonk Women by the Rolling Stones. If you count the way that's do you have that song queued up? I'm gonna do it right now. This is what I play on everybody. It messes with their head, and by the end of it, they want to sing out of tune on purpose. If you can find Honky Tonk Women, and the other song is Otis Redding, I've Been Loving You.
Yep.
Like, to me, he's the best soul singer of all time. My favorite singer of all time, period. There's nobody even close. But you hear him sing, and he goes sharp, really sharp. And the band is kind of not settled. The piano's out of tune. The guitar's rushing. But that's why it comes together and it's soul. I mean, that's what the word soul means. So I play those two songs all the time. Okay, let's play a second. Can you start again? Somebody clap. I want one clapper. You're going to be the clapper. You're the clapper. Okay, now can you skip to the end? Hold that time. Stop the song. Stop the song real quick. You keep clapping that time. Go to the very end of the song, the last 10 seconds of that song. We got it.
Oh dear.
It's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. It's a perfect song.
No click
because when
track
they get
there.
excited, they left it. And it's almost like the car is driven off the road and ran off a cliff, and and that's what music is all about. It's a feeling and emotion. And we were talking about rock and roll earlier. Rock and roll came from the church, but it was the danger that rock and roll added to the church that made it so interesting. So I'm still a rock and roll guy at my heart, and those songs, that passion, that power, that looseness is what I like about music,
On this record, I think probably the most takes that we did of a song is 3, maybe, if that. And that's like, it's because it's such a. Dave wants to capture the rawness. I can get nitpicky, especially on myself, but that doesn't allow me to do that.
The drummer is super important to me. So casting is really the drummer for me because I want to make sure we never lose a vocal. Because I always think the best vocals happens when you're tracking live and the singer's singing with the band. You can never get it to feel the same way. So he's super important, Chris Powell, to my whole success,
They say that the greatest innovations in music come from mistakes. Feedback was a mistake.
Yeah.
Everything interesting about sound in the studio probably was an accident at first. So
Probably.
I wonder if you found that as a producer.
I think now music has a lack of mistakes, and that's why I'm not really interested in it. When I listen to any genre of music circa 1950 to 1980, maybe there was lots of mistakes, and I think that's endearing. I think people attach themselves to human aspects of music, and I think that's something that's lost. So to answer your question, yeah, I think mistakes are what is fun. I remember being a kid listening to The Police. I was really into The Police and listening to there's a mistake in a punch on Stuart Copeland's drums and just obsessing about it. And like, play it, check it out. Nobody else got it. I'm like, that kid is weird. That's why I had no friends in high school. But I remember just obsessing about that, And there's I can't say this because that's NPR, but there's a Van Halen song, Everybody Wants Some. At the end, David Lee Roth says, "Look, I'll pay for it. What the F?" And I thought it was the coolest thing, and it's so quiet. So those mistakes that get left in, that probably wasn't a mistake. But I love trying to catch somebody, a mistake on a record. I always thought that was my favorite part of records in a way.
Savannah Conley and Dave Cobb, thank you all so much for coming, being such a great, attentive audience. I'm Ann Powers. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.